But I've asked for that, that way they can do the willow thing.
Walk around.
Okay. The order. Verification compliance with open meeting law.
Yep, posted and put on our website.
Okay, thank you. Roll call.
Ralphie,
Yes.
Zinsky,
Yes.
Bowles, Schaefer.
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
White,
Here.
Tofa.
Here. Agenda, any order changes or corrections?
Nope.
Okay, number 5, public hearing for the purpose of hearing any citizen or taxpayer on the budget for 2026.
Just for,
Thank you for coming.
yeah, I was gonna say, just for clarification, we used to do public hearings separate, like before the meeting. And there's no reason why we can't incorporate into the meeting. And what that does, that means we don't have to sit here and wait for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
For the public hearing. If there's nobody here, move on. We can move on.
Okay, so there are no public people are here. Under new business, discussion and possible action on the 2025 general fund budget.
Yep, so the budget was published in the paper. The summary budget is in front of you. That's the way that we published it in the paper. Instead of all the line items. These are just the big main categories that we budget under.
This is how it looked in the paper.
This is exactly how it was in the paper.
Any calls?
I did not get any calls. We had a copy out on the desk. Nobody came in to take it. The only change that I made relative to this piece of paper that you're holding is the proposed levy for 2025 underneath the general fund. Total expenditures, the last line item there. Because of the way that they do rounding on the website, I changed it to 631 instead of 632. Because I didn't want to overestimate our levy by 70 cents. So I did change that. So the actual levy would be 54.60. And I do have copies of the budget that we looked at if anybody did need to be reminded about what that looked like. I didn't print it out for everybody. You guys had copies of it at the last meeting. Presumably, if you took them home, you still have copies of them otherwise. The only changes I made were the two that we talked about at that meeting. And that was that change for kids group to increase the amount of utilities we would reimburse them for by $500. And then the mistake that I made in the fire protection levy, I duplicated last year's levy in my 2026 budget. It was actually $2,000 more than what it was last year. So those were the two changes that I made that we approved at the last.
Are you at 6A?
Yeah.
Motion approve 2025 general fund budget.
Second.
Motion by Cal, second by Gregory.
I think so.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Actually, no, honestly, we don't.
We're good.
Yeah.
Motion carried. Item B, discussion possible action on the approval of resolution 2025-8, a resolution to adopt the 2025 village tax levy to be collected in 2026.
This is the one where we will need a roll call because we do record the votes.
Approve. Resolution 2025-8.
Second. Been moved in second. Roll call?
Ralphie,
Yes.
Zinsky,
Yes.
Bowles,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Tofa.
Yes.
And then I will submit this to the county tomorrow morning, and then that will trigger them to print our test. And then just for your reference, I did print out what the levy looks like this year compared to the last few years. Credit goes to the rest of the taxing authorities. The other three taxing authorities did have a slight decrease in their mill rate. Spencer was the only one that had a slight increase in the mill rate. went up from 571 to 608. So the total mill rate actually went down from 2142 to 2094. And then there's a net mill rate because the school tax levy credit that's referenced at the top of the list, it's deducted from the total mill rate to get us our net mill rate. That's what actually shows up on the tax bill of $19.12 per thousand. So then we look at the gross taxes on $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 home. That's what your gross taxes would be. And then because the state can't make it simple, then they take the first dollar credit and the lottery gaming credit off of the gross tax to get your next net tax on $100, $200, $300,000. So on average, those dollar amounts will go down just slightly. $10 on $1,000, $100,000.
Any other comments? No studying, no thing. So when you look at the net mill rate, and you go to between 19 and 20, we were at 27 and then $28.
Yeah.
And then 21, we went down to 17.
Yep.
Is that the year that we adjusted everything?
That was due to a reassessment.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's my question.
And you can see our total assessed value went up from $93 million to $129 million.
That's what
And that's what brings that mill rate down pretty significantly that year.
and so then we went to 11, 20, 1183, 1204, 1245.
Those are the NTC mill rates you're reading.
Oh, I'm sorry. But again, it just keeps creeping up.
It does creep up a little bit.
And then the reassessment is every 10 years?
It's a minimum every 5 years.
5 years.
Or when your assessment ratio drops below 90%.
That's right.
So the very first line after the years at the top of the page, you'll see that last year our assessment ratio was 87%. And this year it drops down to 79%. Now, Greg, our assessor, told us last year that a single year dropping down below 90% doesn't mean anything. Because if you come back up again within 3 years, you really don't have to do anything. But if you trend down multiple years in a row, then you would want to think about doing the rate assessment. So we'll be talking to Greg about that this spring, seeing if that's something that we want to trigger. I don't know if we would do it next year or not. Not sure exactly how that works with his schedule. I do know that in his contract, a reassessment is included in the price that he's charging us, so that there is no extra cost to the village
Right, but
for
when
a reassessment.
wouldn't we also ask Eilers about it too? About a reassessment, because that would
Eilers.
play into our,
No,
Eilers wouldn't have any,
no.
we
This is,
wouldn't ask them about it?
no, because we would be statutorily required to do one anyway. Yeah. Ellers would probably say it's a good thing, get your assessment ratio back up to within that range, because it's going to be more realistic. It's going to better represent the true value of the properties in your town. They're not going to say don't do it.
But with the prices that have gone berserk on our properties.
It's going to hurt because, if we were at 113% instead of 78%, you could say a reassessment would help people a little bit. But then the other thing you have to remember is that when you do a global reassessment, like instead, if you were just reassessing a single property, then that person can suffer a little bit relative to his neighbors. But if you're globally reassessing the entire village, then everybody's levels usually go up and down relative to each other, pretty similar. So all it does is really get that total assessed value at the number that it should be. The proportion of taxes that everybody pays will probably be pretty similar. You'll still have those outliers where somebody maybe did a big improvement and is taking advantage of the fact that there hasn't been a big reassessment since they did their improvements, and those individuals will suffer as they get caught back up. But when you do a global reassessment across the whole village, basically all those boats are rising and lowering together.
So if there's a major improvement, this Greg doesn't come in and do it after it's done?
We do know, yeah, he will, based on the building permits that we give him. He'll go in and reassess for those projects, but quite frankly, sometimes we don't get building permits. Or sometimes, but depending on the work, he might not actually go in, he might do it.
Just look at the.
Yeah, just look at the permit. So there are reasons, I think, why there could be a discrepancy in something like that, but generally speaking, like I say, everybody's boat will rise and lower relative to each other, pretty much the same.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, we'll move on to item C. Discussion possible action on the 2025 water utility budget.
Same thing that's in the middle of the notice of budget hearing page. Same thing as general fund. We reviewed this at the last meeting. Not making the changes. That meeting, I did not make any changes.
Motion to approve the 2020 water utility budget. Second.
Moved and second to approve the water utility budget for 2025. In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item D, discussion possible action on the 2025 sewer utility budget.
Same thing. We reviewed this at the last meeting. We did not make any changes at the meeting, and I haven't made any changes since.
Make the motion for the sewer budget for 2025.
Second.
26.
But they all say 25 on here.
Yeah. Should say 26.
They say that on the agenda. You're right. So, Harry, back up, on item number 4. I do have a correction.
It's a year.
All of these should be 6.
25.
I copied it from the last year's budget.
We need to.
Cut and paste.
There's been a motion on the floor to, in a second, to approve the sewer utility budget.
Can I ask? The
2026.
second one, so I didn't catch.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any further discussions or questions for Chris?
What year is it?
25.
2030. Okay, seeing no questions,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn has been made by Jeremy, second by. I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That's a good-
Motion carried. We are adjourned.
Why I go next week? Another meeting.
You're not calling tonight?
No, we got leaching meeting tonight.
I hear you got some complaints down there.
From by calling?